music.
Party's not a party's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall, and I guess you just rhyme with Bat Minute!
Hello, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Returns, the podcast where we have startling revelations about Tim Burton's 1992 Batman sequel, Batman Returns, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And back again, it's me, John. Who'd have thought it?
Oh my god, I thought it was going to be some other guy sometime.
Yeah,
But,
it's about time it
you.
changed up, but we're keeping you on your toes by not changing
It's
it.
you again, isn't it, John? Always you. But anyway, very glad to have you here. And we're also very glad to have with us today, once again, a Movies by Minute podcaster and podcaster in general of some repute, Scott Carelli.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Oh, more than welcome. It's just like it's every time there's a Movies by Minute podcast and Scott Carelli's not there, everyone should be standing around going, "Where's Scott Carelli?" But now we know you're right here.
Haha, we got him.
But yeah, we're here to talk about minute 98 of Batman Returns. Minute 98 begins with the Catwoman sort of brandishing her weapon, and it ends 1 minute later with once again, Batman and Catwoman coming to startling revelations about each other. But just to jump on in here, I guess, because I was talking about in the last episode about the changes in music and stuff, and the shifting of Selina and Catwoman's personalities. And I think it's very blatantly here at the start because, she starts talking about, like, killing Max Schreck, and it goes into a very angry sort of, the song, sanctimonious scumbag, and, living the high life when he should be 6 feet under and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then once Bruce sort of, talks to her, at that point, the music in the background is this sort of somber, Danny Elfman orchestral bit that's, part of the Catwoman theme. And then as she calms down, it goes into a giggling laugh and goes into the softer voice Selina personality again and saying, he asks, "Who do you think you are?" And she's like, "I don't really know anymore." Then it comes back into Susie Sue. And it's like, oh, it's all shifting in time. Mm-hmm. It's very, very deftly done, I felt.
Yeah, it doesn't beat you over the head with this concept of the, I don't want to say split personality. That doesn't sound quite right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think it is, again, considering this is a movie, the feature is, a woman turned into a vinyl bondage zombie. And, after being resurrected by cats. There's a lot of subtlety going on here as well, but...
Yeah. I think it's like more like a dueling persona, I would say. Dueling personas. More than split personality, I think.
Yeah, that's probably the best way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah. I wanted to get the dueling genre. Dueling personas.
Just put it in. But no, that's probably the best way of putting it, because it's not like split as in one side of it. Well, to make it black and white, one side's good, one side's evil. It's not like that. It's more nuanced, which is shocking for a movie like this.
Yeah. And even talking about like sort of matters of nuance, because Selina here, or Catwoman, whichever way you prefer, she's blatantly talking about, like, yes, I am going to kill Max Schreck. She's just coming out with the plan, just on a suicide mission here. And then, of course, Bruce saying, "Oh, I know you've got some problems with your boss, but, like, who do you think you are?" And it's kind of like, who do you think you are, Bruce? Like, you're doing the same thing. You're going out killing people left, right, and center. At least it was the old school Batman, where it's like, he doesn't kill. That's his big, strict rule. You could almost get away with being sanctimonious about it. But you are a guy, like, you're doing the same thing. You're going around blowing up stuff and friggin' killing criminals and stuff. It's like,
well,
only nasty
exactly
people.
Yeah, yes, but he's wearing his mask right now.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so he's playing the part of Bruce Wayne in this moment because they don't know that they're Catwoman and Batman yet. That happens like 30 seconds later. But like at this moment, he is playing the part of Bruce Wayne and he's reacting like Bruce Wayne would, and it's not a good reaction really. But he's also not very good at being Bruce Wayne. So I think all around, I think the moment mostly works. My complaint about the moment is that she talks about him being like sanctimonious and all of these things, and she just doesn't mention the fact that like he pushed me out of a goddamn window. Like
hell yeah, that would change everything to me.
Yes, yeah. It's like he pushed me out of a window. Oh, he did. Well, give me the gun. Like.
Because as far as he's aware, Max is just a bit of a jerk to her. Like, he doesn't do anything to her necessarily. He's just a bit nasty, orders her around. You don't have to shoot him. Jesus.
Again, knowing this version of Batman, it's like, if Max Schreck was really that much of an asshole, I would have killed him already.
Blown him up.
Right.
This Batman don't care.
Well, that actually gets into an interesting... It got me thinking... about like, because we know and we've talked about extensively Batman's no-kill rule and how this movie is just like, or these Burton movies are just like, nope, whatever. But then I was sort of thinking, well, what in the comics? What about Catwoman? Does Catwoman? She's not a killer. She's not psychotic. That's one of the things that like she's not usually locked up in Arkham because she's not clinically insane. I know she says in comics and stuff she's like a kleptomaniac, but I've got a book called Batman on Psychology that has a chapter on Selina Kyle, and they say that no, she doesn't fit the profile for kleptomaniac the way that she's written and stuff.
Yeah, I think she just says that about herself.
I think she's just saying it kind of offhand, where like they're saying. I think their point in it was that a kleptomaniac it's a compulsion, whereas Selina's stealing just for commercial gain and stuff. Like she's not like. She's not doing it like because she can't help herself. It's more she's just doing it for fun and stuff.
That's quite realistic though, because people do that all the time in real life. If they get a little bit, they go a bit overboard with something. They're like, "Oh, I'm so OCD." It's like, no, you're not.
Yeah,
you're just annoying.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, her thing, this particular Selina Kyle's like whole thing with stealing is more of like a power dynamic thing. Like she's trying to take some power back from this guy who threw her out a window, so she's going to steal from his store. That's just like the beginning of it, and then it sort of escalates from there. But like for her, it's all about power. It doesn't even really have anything to do with the theft itself.
No, she doesn't actually. You don't see her really like reveling in the spoils of her criminal activity, do you? She smashes his place up, blows it up, maybe takes a few things. It's not really about that.
If anything, she has more in common with the Joker burning all of the mob's money than she does with most Catwomen in media.
You could actually see a scene, I think, of her burning some of Shrek's money. That would have fit in just as well.
Yeah.
You could have a scene of her like maybe she captured Chip. Ransom them off and then just burn the money or something and him. Again, that would be identical to the Dark Knight, essentially. That's the only thing. But
it would fit in the movie.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, because I've been looking into, looking into the psychology of Catwoman as a character. And, of course, obviously, it's not consistent because the character has evolved so much over the years of different writers and different eras and et cetera, et cetera. For example, weirdly enough, in the 60s show, she was incredibly murderous. Like, she would be trying to kill people all the goddamn time because she was a full-blown villain in the 60s show. Whereas nowadays, as things go on into the 80s and 90s, they make her much more sympathetic anti-hero and whatnot. And post this movie, Catwoman's only been known to kill once, where and it's one of those sort of, and for good reason, where she killed Black Mask at one point, shot him straight in the head because... the incredibly gruesome detail of he had captured her sister and her sister's husband and then fed their husband's eyeballs to the sister and was talking about torturing Selina by getting to her loved ones, and so she shot Black Mask in the head and stuff.
Jesus
and it's supposed
Christ.
to be a big thing in that they use that in the story as a development point of Selina, because she didn't kill and then she felt kind of justifiable in murdering this character, much like Selina here feels justified in killing Max Shrek because he quote unquote killed her, kinda. But
well, even if you don't believe my point of view that she died, literally, he did kill her in a way. Like Selina Kyle has died. She's gone.
Yeah. I think the damage is done. She ain't. Things aren't ever going to be the same again, essentially. But I could see though because I've also been listening to interviews of people and they were big fans of Catwoman, and some of them have not that they poo-poo this movie, but they kind of see a problem with this portrayal of Catwoman because at this point in the movie, and even towards the end and stuff, because spoilers, she succeeds in killing Max Shrek. She doesn't. There's no redemption for this Catwoman. Whereas a lot of people apparently do see Selina as a kind of empowering figure because she comes from the slums of Gotham, literally from the dirt, and she rises up, and despite everything, she becomes a better person. She goes through villainy and comes out the top as like, no, I'm essentially a good person. And this version is the exact kind of, well, she's in the slums already, and then it just gets worse. Like the Gotham City, if Selina Kyle's a woman who ascends Gotham City, this version of it is a woman who is completely broken by the city and the people in it and stuff.
Yeah, it's sad though. It's quite moving.
Yeah.
You do sympathize with her a lot throughout the whole film.
I think it's tragic in that way because I mean the thing about the Selina from the comics, she is only who she is now because, I mean, basically because of Frank Miller, and that's not a positive on Frank Miller, but like I think Frank Miller took that character down to like the deepest depths of just crap, like just making her a prostitute and all of these things. Like he's responsible for doing that and like bringing her down that low so that like the only thing that could happen after that to redeem that is to make her what she has become in pop culture and everything. But that's not what this character is. Like this was a ground up, completely new approach to the character. And so it's hard to even really compare this Selina Kyle to the one that is depicted in the comics because this one isn't even really a thief, really?
No.
Yeah.
Really.
So like, she doesn't get her name from being a cat burglar like she does in the comics. Like she's just not that same character. And while, there is something to be said about class and class systems and things with this version of the character, it's not telling the same type of story that other Catwoman is because she wasn't at that level. Like she started out, it's not like she was in the slums. Like she had a nice apartment. Like it was like she had a really nice apartment. She had a career. It ended up not being a good one, but it was there. It was happening. And it's more about like you said, it's more about how this city failed her. It's not about like, it's not even really about crime for her. Like it doesn't have anything to do with crime, her story. And that's what the other Selina Kyle from the comics, that's like what her whole thing is like she starts off she was raised in crime and then she ends up overcoming crime, and that's kind of her story. And that's why it's, she's like this important character in like feminism and things like that. Like it's a really great character arc, but this is just a totally different thing. And I think it's hard to really compare the two because they're doing something so different with this version of the character.
I think though there's something, maybe it's talking about us as people, in that you like me saying like, oh, she has a really nice apartment. But if you watch like the little featurettes and stuff about like designing the sets, the people are all talking about like, oh, we gave her this really dingy, horrible little apartment and stuff. Whereas people in our position are like, that's a pretty nice apartment she's got there. But for like a single woman in the big city, it's like, yeah, there's loads of space in there. What the hell's going on?
It's huge. I mean, why do movies always get that wrong? They try and make it look like someone lives in the slums. The houses are too big. One of the only ones I can think of off the top of my head that really nails it, I think, like in Rocky. Where Rocky lives, that's small. That's kind of like the first places I would live. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas,
Peter's apartment in Spider-Man.
Peters is pretty good as well. But too many
Doesn't even have a
movies
bathroom.
just go overboard. They go crazy.
Yeah.
But just in that position of like, still, early 30s, I've just been like, but only getting into slightly bigger accommodations now myself. Like, what the hell? Who are these set designers to judge? I mean, come on.
Different time.
Yeah. Everything was great in the 80s. Everything in the 80s and the 90s, perfect. Good.
Yeah, no problems at all in the 80s. It's not infamous for it in any way.
Yeah, just the height of economics, the height of everything.
Everyone was happy.
But of course, then we get talking about Selina's fractured personality. We do get this terrific shot of her looking up, and then we see the bird's eye view of her from down. We see they're dancing on a floor that looks to be a bit like sort of cracked glass. Sort of like fractured glass, if you will, like a fractured psyche, a little bit like her Catwoman. So too, if you want to take it down that route.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like it's not quite the stitching, but it makes you think of it.
Yeah, yes, it's pretty good. It's just a nice little everything about this scene. Like, I actually think this, particularly, the whole scene is great. But I think from this minute onwards, of the next 4 minutes, are probably my personal favorite section of the movie. Like the realization, and then the spoilers, entrance of the Penguin, which just absolutely friggin' love. His scene is coming up. But
since you've done the spoilers there, I'll bring it up. In the strict revised draft, the Penguin starts his entrance here, like just before Selina does her little speech, dissing Max here in this minute. Just before that, the Penguin begins his entrance. You see him already. And I don't think you should. I like what they go with. A little bit more of a surprise. Like, he's coming, but you don't know how, in what way, what he's going to do. Whereas this shows you, basically, he's ready, he's in the duck. It's rising. Yeah.
I think that's the thing left over from the Waters draft as well. Like, there's all these illusions. Like, in that, they actually have the party has been infiltrated, but nobody's really noticed or cared. There's loads of little penguins walking around. People are thinking like, this is part of like the crazy party atmosphere. We've just got random penguins walking around.
Oh, wait, I like that. I mean, I prefer the final product, but that's cool because it just shows how superficial all these people are to me. They're not even paying any attention. They don't care. They're not at the party for that. They're at the party to be seen or maybe to do business.
Yeah. I would have loved, though, if they had a penguin walking around, and then like the camera closed in on it and did a little dun dun dun, put an ominous music over the penguin walking around.
I want to see one of the Red Triangle gang bump into one of the penguins. They're both in disguise, and he's like, what are you doing here? And the penguin just quacks at him. He's like, well, I can see you're serving drinks.
This is like Anthony Daniels has joined the Red Triangle gang. But of course, then we get one of the biggest moments in the movie when Selina looks up and sees the mistletoe hanging from the roof. And of course, I'll kiss under the mistletoe. Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it.
I was just gonna say, I just think it's amazing that they quote each other. Like that's my favorite thing about it is that they're quoting each other. Like they learned something from each other and they're quoting each other, and I just think that's amazing. Like they're not. Like, there's so many movies that the normal go-to thing would be like they would just quote themselves. Like they would just say the same back and forth again, like as they said it as Batman and Catwoman. But instead here, they're like, no, like we want to show that these two characters are actually learning from each other. Like they care about what each other has to say to the point where they are reiterating things that the other person said.
Without even thinking about it.
Not even thinking about it. And I just love that. And from a performance standpoint, I love Michael Keaton's delivery of his line because he realizes halfway through the line what is happening. Yeah. And I think that's great because again, in a lesser movie, he would say the whole line and then they would both realize it at the same time. And this is sort of just like a slowly like dawning as the words are coming out of his mouth of what is happening right now. And it's really, really incredible. And then her just like tears in her eyes looking around like, oh God, it's amazing. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah. I will also say too, like when I was talking like last minute about really wanting a version of, you know, the face-to-face that actually had these orchestral bits in it, it was mostly for this. The music, when they both realize, there's a beautiful bit of strings going on here.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things too, because it's only a couple of seconds, so they're not going to dedicate like a section of the soundtrack to like, oh, here's a 4-second clip. But I would really, really love it. They, you know, maybe if I went and listened to every track, maybe they do have it in somewhere, but I've never come across it, and through casual listening. But yeah, absolutely, yeah, that was absolutely, terrific work. This whole scene is just really, really well done.
No, I never really thought about it till we started doing the show, and now it's up there with my favorite scenes, I would say, because on initial, you know, when you're scanning through the minutes before you start, you're like, oh, this is boring. They're just dancing around, but no, there's actually a lot more going on than you think.
Yeah, I do. Again, too, talking about, because the scenes now become so intimate as well, and you're so wrapped up in it. Again, cutting to the penguin getting ready to come in would just be like, oh, what are you doing? You can't distract from this. Like, this is, you know, you got great stuff going on here. Mm-hmm. Plus, then the fact that like you're wrapped up in what's about to happen, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the penguin shows up. Is, you know, it has the impact that it would if you were actually at the party where you're just minding your own business, and all of a sudden this guy shows up.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only is that a greater impact, but it's treating the romance plot with more respect.
Yes.
It's not treating it as a throwaway thing, which, right, you brought up Thor in the last minute, Scott. Now, I really love that Thor movie. But even in Thor, it's like, well, we have to have a romance in here. Just put it in. Just put it in. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
And to the point where they just jettison it in the sequels.
Well, yeah. That's the things. I've done the rewatch of Thor, and it's like, the two, like Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman, have chemistry.
Yes.
They're both very good actors.
Yes.
But it is just like, this plot, I know it's going nowhere, so I can't get invested in it.
Right.
And I know it's also, the only thing it's leading to is Thor the Dark World, which is like, well, I'm going to be skipping that one. So,
man,
not the best.
But you know that, and the thing that's heartbreaking, I think the most heartbreaking about Thor: The Dark World is that, you know, it was originally supposed to be Patty Jenkins, who directed it, and the reason that she was fired was because she wanted to make it a sweeping romance film. She wanted to make it like Romeo and Juliet between the gods and Earth, and they're like, you can't be in love with someone from Midgard, and him basically like fighting for what he considers to be the love of his life. And that's
perfect.
That's what that movie was supposed to be, and Marvel Studios scoffed at it and fired her. And then
that's ridiculous.
And then it became the piece of crap that it is.
It would really fit as well, the characters, because okay, they're not actually the mythical gods as such. It depends how you view it. But that sounds like a storyline you would get in an old myth.
Yeah.
Because they're always going, you know, having these Romeo and Juliet-esque romances with Earth women and whatnot, and that's what it's all about. It's a damn soap opera,
right? Because I believe the idea was that it was going to end the way that, like, you know, like Disney's Hercules ends, where he basically chooses to stay on Midgard, and that's how he becomes like a full-time Avenger. Is that he stays on Midgard to be with Jane, and then just becomes like a superhero instead of being a god anymore. And that's kind of like that's how that movie was supposed to end. And then instead, you
just kind of get this confusing, like, Thor, at the end of the first movie, he wasn't able to get back to Earth, but then the Avengers, he's just there.
Yeah.
And then the next time you see him, he's just like, oh, that relationship didn't work out. And you're like, what? What?
Yeah, it didn't matter. Yeah. The only thing I remember about that second Thor movie, and it's only half remember, is the fight with Loki where they're kind of teleporting around. That was pretty good, I guess, for a fight.
That's it's with Chris Eccleston.
Yeah,
that is the one.
Oh, is it? See, I didn't even remember it properly.
Yeah, because I think Loki is quote unquote dead at that point.
Yeah. Even though we all knew he wasn't dead.
Right.
But it has that whole thing where they teleport literally into space and then back to Earth, and then the hammer keeps flying around because it doesn't know where to go and stuff.
That's pretty
I do remember
cool.
that being good. Yeah, that bit was solid. I'll give them that. But YouTube that scene, and then
that bit was solid. That bit was solid. But do you know who wrote that bit? No, that was Joss Whedon.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, Joss Whedon came in and fixed the end of that movie because it was so bad that it was basically unwatchable until they did reshoots and created that entire sequence.
Oh, thank God. It got me through everything I'd just seen.
Yeah.
It made me come to terms with the rest of the movie.
Now, that was the thing, because in the minute, though, we're dealing with here, we have a whole thing about, we've interpreted this version of Catwoman as a real strike against the, her nemesis is the rich white guy. She's a belittled woman in the city who has been sort of screwed down and screwed over by the patriarchy, basically. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, we're coming off now hot on the heels of the bizarre uproar around Captain Marvel. And I wonder if this movie was released now, would it get the same kind of uproar? This movie's against white men and rich people and all this kind of thing.
Those people, okay.
I wonder if it would register with them, or is it just because that they kind of wore it in their sleeve with Captain Marvel in the marketing? Did it just rub people the wrong way, or is it they would just have an absolute hatred of this thing because of the story subject?
No, because Catwoman's a bad guy.
Oh, well, yeah, actually that's a point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's they would dismiss it because she's not the hero of the story. So they would be like, "Oh, it's fine," because obviously, she's the bad guy.
They'd make her out to be the main bad guy,
right? Hashtag Max Shrek was right.
I would have kicked her out of that window. God damn it!
So the other thing that I just want to bring up, because I recently watched it, and I really hope you guys put this on your list for your hiatus specials, because I think it'd be really, really, really good for you guys to cover this. But I recently watched the Death of Superman Lives: What Happens. Or What Happened.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, this scene just makes me think about how much we missed out on a Tim Burton Superman movie with Nicolas Cage that I legitimately think would have been at the very least one of the most interesting films ever made. One of the most interesting comic book films ever made. I mean, I don't know, qualitatively, who knows? Would the movie have really been good? I don't know, but it would have been fascinating to watch, and I think we'd all still be talking about it today. About this is how you reinvent a character for modern audiences by just not staying close to the source material and just doing your own thing. I think it's amazing, but I think more than anything, and the thing that they don't ever talk about in that documentary, but I guarantee you was a large part of the actual film, I would have loved to have seen what Tim Burton's take on the romance between Clark and Lois would have been.
Oh my God!
Yeah, because while we know that Nicolas Cage was Superman, that's the thing that everyone talks about. The thing that no one talks about is that Lois Lane was Sandra Bullock. And I just, Sandra Bullock, Lois Lane, 90s Sandra Bullock as Lois Lane, that's great casting. And
thank God you said that. I was about to come in and say, I am on board with this. Please, you be too.
Yeah. No.
Perfect.
No, she's perfect. Absolutely perfect. And it would have been amazing. And I would have loved to see how they dealt with that romance, especially knowing what they were doing with sort of reinventing the character of Clark Kent. And all of the things that Nicolas Cage was doing with Clark Kent that sort of reinvented him for the 90s in ways that I was blown away with. Have you guys seen this documentary?
Oh yeah, I saw it. I saw it a while back, but absolutely loved it. Really, really. We'll probably add it to the list of hiatus, but we've got to I internally have about 6 or 7. Oh, we should cover that for the hiatus already. So it's we're gonna have to really. I've been considering actually just putting it up in the listeners' pages, just do votes. Just go well, should we do it in this movie or this movie?
Yeah.
This movie or this movie?
That's not a bad idea. Doug Greenberg does that with not with the Rocky Minute, but with the he does that show with all the other Rocky podcasters,
right?
The bonus ones,
right?
And they do that, don't they? They put up a vote.
Yeah, They do. But yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a great one for you guys to do, just because it'd be like one last Tim Burton thing to talk about, that's DC related. And his Lex Luthor, as you see concept art for Lex Luthor in this, and his Lex Luthor was just Max Schreck bald. Like, I mean, that's like it's exactly what it was. And Christopher Walken is Brainiac. Come on.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
I think it would have been good. Like, a lot of people like to laugh about it. Like, oh, it sounds so crazy. How stupid would this be? I can't believe we missed out on it. But on paper, so is this film.
Yeah.
On paper, this is the most insane movie you've ever seen or read.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think he would have made those things work somehow.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I was really impressed with watching it for the second time recently, because I watched it a while ago and I was just sort of like absorbing all of the concept art and the stuff like that. And this time I really paid attention to what the story of it was going to be. And the idea that he was going to make Clark Kent an outsider, in that like he's like has these powers, but he doesn't know that he's an alien yet. He's an adult and he's working at the Daily Bugle and he does Superman stuff, but he doesn't know where he comes from. He doesn't know anything about Krypton or anything. It's not until his fight with Doomsday and he dies and then comes back to life that he realizes that he's an alien because of all of like the alien tech that's like raising him. And then Brainiac like kind of tells him the truth about Krypton and why he's so interested in, taking him and all of that. Like that idea of like making this a weird Superman origin story where he dies in the middle is like kind of the craziest, most interesting thing that only someone who doesn't give a shit about Superman would come up with, And I love that. I love that.
Which in some ways is what you need if you're rebooting something completely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it worked with J.J. Abrams with Star Trek, right? I mean, he didn't care about Star Trek, and then he did a really great job rebooting it and making it really accessible for everybody.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of I really like the third one.
Yeah.
The first one I like, but much like Thor, the second one I do.
Yeah, it's
I hated the second one.
The second one's rough.
Angry leaving the cinema about the one.
It's the way the second one confuses me because it seems to assume that you know who Khan is.
Yes.
And you know the original Star Trek.
Yes.
So it doesn't really explain why you should care when he reveals himself to be Khan. It's like, so? Like, I know who that is.
Yeah, there's no stakes as well, because it's like, well, they've just met him, where the whole point of Wrath of the Khan is like, we got beef, we have history. Whereas this one's just like, this is some guy to show up. It's like,
and he said he's called Khan or something? I don't know, but he looks like a white English dude.
Yeah.
But of course, as we mentioned earlier in the season, when they got, the beloved Ricardo Montalban, who did the voice of Selina Kyle's mother in this movie, as we covered way back when.
Oh, of course. Yes.
But anywho, like actually, again though, going back to the minutes, as we probably should do. So yeah, we do have now. We're near, pretty much at the end though. But the reaction shots from Bruce and Selina are, terrific. And one detail that I noticed that I really liked was that, Selina seems, very shaken. She's looking around the place, but then it's Bruce who wipes away her tear. Like he reaches up. And it's like an instant bit of empathy. Like he's gonna, like he's found out like, oh, you're this woman I've been, fighting all this time. Mm-hmm. But because he's already got a connection with Catwoman, he has an instinctive, empathetic point to wipe away her tear because he's kind of feeling the same.
Well, and it's also it's sort of like they suddenly have the full picture of each other. And it's like, yeah, Catwoman, this woman who stabbed me in my ribs and we've been fighting and everything. But then like also she's this woman that I'm falling for, and you're realizing both these things. So it's like, yes, intellectually, he knows that this is Catwoman now, but in front of him is the woman that he's falling for crying, and he can't help but step up and, try to console her. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so conflicted.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
great.
it. Much deeper than most of these movies, where they wouldn't even have this conversation. They probably would just start fighting out of the blue in a modern movie. They'd go from that dialogue to punch.
Oh, well, I got notes on something relevant to that, but
God,
we'll leave him to the next one,
right.
maybe.
Well, the only other thing that happens here in the strict draft is they share a kiss.
Yeah.
which I don't think is necessary. Like, they kiss, and then they find out this information.
Oh, I've enjoyed both mine and Scott's reaction to that of just
yeah. It's not needed, is it? That takes something away from it almost. I like the tease. Like, they're getting closer. Oh no, now they're not. Now they're very far apart.
Yeah. Although the positioning of the kiss in this is, we didn't mention it. Like, it's after Selina is confessed that she's gonna kill Max Schreck and stuff. Bruce does give her a kiss, and it's like, that in itself is like, oh yeah, it's very, very strange that, like, is Bruce just attracted to crazy? Is that what's going on? Like, why would he feel this impulse? Like, maybe does he understand the need for vengeance? Is that what he's attracted to, or what made him do that in that moment?
No, I would think, to me, it comes across more just he's trying to kind of not console her, but almost change her mind. Like, no, come back to me.
Yeah.
We're okay.
I think you're right. I think that's probably the point of it. I mean, the real purpose is for blocking sake, so that Michelle Pfeiffer can have an excuse to look up at the ceiling. I mean, that's that's the actual reason why it's there. But I think that's a way that you can justify it, is like you said.
Yeah, he's got to almost woo her back to the light. Because he might not know 100% what's going to go down, but he doesn't want murder to happen. Only Batman can murder people.
And how?
Oh yeah.
I was always about to do it later on in this movie again, but,
for the 900th time.
Well, they still get this. The murder at the end of this movie is a little bit of those. It's that whole Ra's al Ghul on the train thing of like, hey, I just didn't save you. Like, that's all. That's all I did. It was like you killed yourself, kinda, by falling backwards into the toxic waste penguin. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure legally that doesn't work out.
It's like, yes, I shot a bunch of bats at him, but how was I to know that he was going to fall backwards into that?
I thought he just wanted to, cuddle the bats.
I just really want to see Michael Keaton's Batman in a courtroom setting in the suit justifying all his murders.
Oh my God, that'd be
yes,
great.
I shoved some dynamite down his pants and threw him in a thing, but how was I to know that it would actually go off?
That was not excessive.
But anyway, so we can wrap this one up, I think.
Yeah. Not much else happens, does it? Just more staring and crying and wonderful emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you will all be emotional because we're leaving you now. We're heading into the dark night. Scott, would you like to tell everyone where they can find more of your wonderful, wonderful work?
Yeah. If you want to hear me talk about romance more, you might want to tune into Spider-Man Minute, which is a podcast I do with my co-host Zach Luna. And we've been talking about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. We've done the first two. We're coming back later this year to talk about Spider-Man 3, which is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun conversations to be had there. But if you want to hear me talk about romance with a capital R, I do that a lot on Spider-Man, and talk about how much I miss that aspect of filmmaking in general, but especially in superhero cinema. So that's Spider-Man Minute. You can find it anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah, I will also add, I am going to be officially starting a petition, though, for you to delay Spider-Man 3 and just do Into the Spider-Verse now, because I am so ready for that to be done. The minute I walked out of the cinema, I was like, this should be a movies by minute of this right this second. Like,
well,
can I upset both of you? I haven't seen it yet, but I do have it on pre-order for when it comes out.
Like on Blu-ray? Because it's already out on digital.
Yeah, it's not out here on digital.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
April the 5th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have the digital on pre-order on Amazon, so I will be watching it soon.
Yeah, this film, it's just absolutely, particularly too because I've been back home and I've been visiting my 3-year-old nephew who's just really, really into Spider-Man now. So I've been seeing, went out to see it multiple times with him and stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so good. Just literally could not have asked for more of a movie. It's just like everything about that was great. I just loved it so much.
Well, we are covering Spider-Man 3 next, but we will be covering Spider-Verse sooner than you probably think we will be. So.
I don't want to. Like, I was like, I want to call minutes, but the only minutes I'd want to call would be the post-credit scene as well, because that's my favorite part. But like, you gotta have people on for the post-credits. It'd be like the last episode. Like, yeah, I'm here as well.
Right.
This guy. Hell yeah. Well, do check it out, everyone, because it's great show, of course. And if you want to hear all of us talk about the greatest romance of all time, we are on a podcast called How to Lose a Guy in 10 episodes.
Oh, yeah, we are.
And everybody loves How to Lose a Guy in 10 days.
Particularly all the people who were hosts on that show.
Yes, everybody was thoroughly on board with that movie. All loved it. Can't get enough. So do check that out. And send us all your messages telling us how wonderful we were on that to the Bat Minute Listeners Cave. I almost called it the old name there. Oh dear, we changed the name. And you can tweet us at Bat Minute. We're on Instagram as well. We're everywhere. Just put it in. Just Google. We're everywhere. And remember to join us again on Friday for more Bat Minute Returns. Next time, pop goes the penguin. Reeling revelations result in exit negotiations for two infatuated foes. But will the arrival of another rival and mutated mercurial miscreant cause this party to really blow? Find out Friday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.